It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our incredible speaker who's going to share with you five-star director Ellen Lewis from Champion. And last night, Ellen had an opportunity to share during our director workshop. And Ellen, these are two very special days for the directors and above in the Rocket region because we get to hear from you twice. So I'm turning it over to you, my friend. Take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It kind of threw me off because I thought I was going before Christy, and now Christy's made me a little emotional. I'm like, but this is what recruiting is all about. All right. I was doing great. And then I saw her when Chris was talking, she was up in the corner and she was looking above her screen and talking to one of her family members. And I could see her crying. I was like, oh my goodness. But that is what recruiting is all about. And that's why it's so important to encompass that part of the business into what you're doing, because you could have a Christy Jackson at your next party. You could have already had a Christy Jackson and maybe you missed her. And so it's so important to just really share. And even if you're like, I don't want to recruit, I hope I'm going to change your mind today on that. But if you're thinking, I don't want to recruit, I don't want to do these things, I'm telling you, it's a bigger than you. It's about more than you. Imagine if I came in the business all those years ago and I said, I don't want to recruit, right? We would have missed out on a lot of really great people. They may have found their way to Tupperware, but it wouldn't have been through me, right? So I want to encourage all of you to begin with the end in mind. Okay. So where do you want to take this business? What is your end game? All right. Are you building a six-figure empire? This girl right here is, okay. All right. Or are you just looking for a little bit of extra to make the ends meet? Either way, in order to get that consistent income, it comes through recruiting. All right. So your income in a commission-based business, right? It can either be a wave or it can be a wiggle, right? Okay. So it's a wave when all you're doing is doing your parties and you're collecting your commissions and doing things like that, right? It's a wave for that. But when you start recruiting, and life happens and you have to pull back a little or take your foot off the gas a little in your business, you don't have that big wave, because if all you're doing is commission and you have to pull off on the gas pedal, right? Your commission is directly affected. But if you have a team working, you still have income coming in, right? And so it's so important. And just kind of sticking with that car analogy, right? So when life happens in this business and you ease up off that gas pedal, now, if you never put your foot back down on that gas pedal, the car will eventually stop, right? At some point it's going to stop. And that's why it's important to, and when life happens, pull back a little. You had a baby, there was a death in the family, somebody got sick, right? Things like that. Pull back a little bit, then just go full speed ahead, right? Now, again, sticking with this car analogy, if you take your foot off the gas and then you put it back on, and then you take your foot off the gas and you put it back on, you take your foot off the gas, you put it back on, it doesn't make for a very smooth ride, does it? No. And even somebody might get car sick, and that's no fun. So this is where recruiting can help with that. All right. So let's get started. All right. So when you started in Tupperware, you probably were taught about the Frank list, going through friends, relatives, neighbors, all that stuff. Right. So here's another spin on that Frank list. All right. You can simplify it and make it just a dirt and chicken list. Right. Okay. So the dirt list is the people that would buy dirt from you if you were selling it because they just love you so much. Right. So those are your number one supporters. Now, the chicken list is that person that you're afraid to talk to, but if you don't, she's going to end up on somebody else's team, maybe in another direct selling company, right? And that stinks when somebody comes out there like, Ellen, I'm so excited, I just joined XYZ, and I'm like, what? No, you're supposed to be with me. All right, so I'm going to give you 12 reach out rules, okay? So we have 12 reach out rules. The first one is don't be attached to the outcome of any conversation, right? There's so many people out there to talk to. Don't get worked up on the no's, right? Don't get hung up on them. Our job is to talk to people all the time. And if we get disappointed with every little no, that is going to keep us from our big goals, like why it is we started this business. Maybe it's to support our family. Maybe it's to, fill our retirement nest egg, whatever it is, right? Don't let those no's keep you from your dreams. All right. So number 2 is don't be on the hunt. Okay. People can see that, right? They can see that they're just a number to you. And so you want to make sure you're authentic and sincere when you're talking to people. You don't want to have this attitude of like, who am I going to get today? Right? You're after somebody. You want to instead kind of have an intention of, I have something really special to share, and I'm looking for somebody who is needing this in their life right now. Right? It changes your whole approach when you kind of come at it from that direction. All right. So number 3 is less is more. Okay. Less is more. You can talk somebody into the business and you can talk them right back out if you keep talking, right? And sometimes, we fall into the trap of wanting to tell them everything we know about the business and everything we know about the products, right? It can overwhelm somebody. It can even bore them. So please, no verbal vomiting. All right. So number 4, be authentic. You want to be authentic. You don't want to try to sound like me. You be you, right? And so what would come out of your mouth, that is the most powerful thing. People, I'm going to share some word choices at the end. People ask me about word choices all the time. And I got to be honest with you. There have been times I'm like, listen, we have something. If you joined a business right now, we have something you could get for free, but it's not about that. I totally want you on my team. I think you're amazing, right? That sometimes are my word choices because that's who I am. That's just kind of when it's coming from me, it's very simple and straightforward, right? All right. So you want to be authentic. People respond to, sorry, I saw in the comments, somebody's having hand cramps. I'm sorry. Stretch your fingers. All right. It's recorded. It's recorded. All right. So people respond to real people. So be authentic. All right. So number 5, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Isn't that great news? So don't get hung up on all the words, right? So unbridled enthusiasm, or as we like to call it, ignorance on fire, right? Goes a long way. When I started in business, I was definitely ignorance on fire. I didn't worry myself with all the details of compensation and all this gobbledygook. I just was so excited that I was making money finally, that I was just like, hey, you should totally do this. I know it sounds weird, but you should do it, right? And so I'm going to quote Tony Robbins, and he says, perfection is the absolutely lowest standard you can have for yourself because it's impossible to attain. Now, remember that. So the key there is just to start, right? Because you get stuck in that sort of like, well, I want to be good, but I don't want to sound bad. Well, but you got to open your mouth and practice to be good, right? So you got to kind of go through that, right? The good thing is I probably don't even talk to or see all the people that I met in my first year when I was kind of stumbling through everything, right? All right, so number 6, if you find yourself convincing, stop it. Stop it. Okay. We are not in the job of convincing people and twisting their arms to join our company. We have an amazing offer. All right. And so there should be no convincing when it comes to it. All right. If you find yourself convincing, you're most likely not asking the right questions to connect with them. But also it may just not be the time for them. It might have nothing to do with you and it's just not the right time. So, and you might lose them in the future if you're so busy just kind of trying to convince them right now. All right. So number 7 is listen, 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 really listen. All right. It's just as important to talk in the right tone as it is to listen to what people are saying, because you don't want to be barking up the wrong tree, talking to somebody about being able to work around their kids and they don't have kids, right? So it's so important to listen to what they're saying. Number 8, work from appointments to appointments, meaning schedule your next conversation with them if they need to think about it or whatever. Schedule your next conversation as you're having that conversation. It avoids feeling like you're chasing them, right? That's not a good feeling. Number 9 is don't count your chickens. All right. They're not in until they're in the system. And that's that. All right. Number 10 is lead with the business and default to the products. We talk old school Tupperware. That is the mountaintop theory, right? I know all of you are nodding your heads. You're like, yes, the mountaintop theory. All right. And so what that is like, if you're talking to somebody about the products and they say they're not interested, is it logical to say, hey, well, then why don't you sell? No, that doesn't even make sense. You start with selling, and then if they're not interested in that, then you can pivot or slide to a referral or the products, right? All right, so number 11, don't leave rambling voicemails. It's a rookie mistake. So my favorite voicemail to leave that I say all the time that I have a lot of success with is I just tell them, hey, this is Ellen with Tupperware. I was giving you a call. I'll try back another time, but in the next 24 hours, I'm going to send you a text. And if it's easier for you to reply to this text, go ahead and reply to the text. And then, we can talk, right? Because I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I don't return phone calls very quickly. I will reply to a text. A phone call, sometimes it takes me a minute, right? So I'm giving them another way to get to me, right? All right, so number 12 is lead with what's in it for them, all right? Lead with what's in it for them. People are more attentive and engaged when the conversation is about what they're gonna get out of it, right? Because if it's all about what you're gonna get out of it and that's what you're thinking about, that's like an invisible rope holding you back, right? And so take yourself completely out of the equation and be able to go forward talking about what's in it for them. All right, so I said I would give you a couple word choices. All right, and so like I said, these are my words, and so you need to find your authentic voice. But really quickly, a lot of times the way I approach people, honestly, is I treat people the way I would want to be treated, and I don't like to be put on the spot. So I always go in from a different angle. So like if it's somebody, maybe I just watched them take care of another customer someplace, I'm at a restaurant or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you were so good with people. It takes a special person to have the patience to be able to work with people day in and day out. So I'm going to ask you, do you know anybody that's looking for some part-time income working from home? Because I'm always looking for people just like you. And I find that, like attracts like, so you're probably a lot of your friends. So maybe you have somebody in your friend circle that's looking for some extra income, right? And a lot of times they say, oh, me, I'm the person. And of course I'm going for her, but I'm trying to give her an out. Now, if I do go straight in for the kill, because sometimes I get a little excited and I'm like, oh my gosh, I adore you. And I have this team and I want you on my team, right? And they get a little squirmy. I'm like, you know what? It's totally okay for you to tell me no. Like, it's totally okay for me to tell me no. So just take this as a compliment that it was meant to be, is that I choose who I work with and you would be an amazing fit. All right, so those are some of my word choices. They're not quite like a lot of times the word choices that you get, but those are my words. So, so the big thing is, the bottom line is, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it and just go for it. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And the secret of getting ahead is getting started now.
Wow, Ellen, oh my goodness, right? So, everyone here obviously taking feverish notes. They got hand cramps, right? And but as Ellen mentioned, this is recorded, my friends, so you'll be able to listen back to that. I've got to say this. I've been in Tupperware for 37 years, and I just learned something new today. And I want to share with everyone because I think it's so important. I think every time you talk, Ellen, I learn something new, and I've never heard of the dirt and chicken list. But I'm going to add, with your permission, I'm going to add that to my repertoire.
Okay, I got to be honest. This came from a book. Okay, this came from a book, and it is Get Over Your Damn Self. It's literally an amazing book. If you don't have it, you got to get it. But that came from this book. I can't take credit for that. And all 12 of those steps came from this book as well.
Well, that's fantastic. And the fact that I haven't read the book and I got that tip from you, that's all I'm ever going to remember. Ellen, thank you so much on behalf of all the business leaders and all the everyone here at Winterfest. We thank you for sharing. Greatly appreciate it.